On this episode of In the Gun, the Mountaineers are at the halfway point. We'll talk about the 6 games that are behind us and the 6 games that are ahead of us. Also, stop me if you've heard this one before, but more changes coming to the college football transfer portal. All of that and more in this edition of ITG.
Caution, this podcast contains bad jokes, optimism, and a healthy disdain for Pat Narduzzi. Watching it may increase your actual knowledge of actual football.
ITG.
All the pieces are in place for us to have a chance to win it all.
And we're the 3 best friends that anybody could have.
There's Owen Schmitt in the building.
Like a runaway beer truck down the sidelines.
So where's he in? He in here, Jed Drenning?
I'm not much of an athlete.
The thing that's non-negotiable is playing hard and playing tough.
And Wesley, Valen, Uhler. You are in the gun.
Once you enter this family, there's no getting out.
In the Gun, episode 287 of your new favorite WVU football podcast. I'm Wes Uhler, as always, with the best teammates in the business. We got the beer trucking barbecue man himself, Owen Schmitt, the signal caller, Jed Drenning, and we will be joined by our co-host slash producer slash Mr. Do-It-All, Schuyler Callihan, here in just a few minutes. As always, a couple people to thank right off the top here. Bet Online. We all know the game starts here. A big shout out to Toothman Ford, JR, and all the good people there at Team Toothman. We all know cars cost less in Grafton. To Fortis, for roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed. You got to visit fortis.us.com. The good people at Johnston Equipment coming to the Peach Lot party here for TCU, I hear. Make sure you're checking them out, not only in the Peach Lot at the next Mountaineer home game, but of course between Buchanan and Weston on 33. And you can always visit them online, Johnston with a T. That's JohnstonEQ.com. And of course, our new best friends at the Book Exchange. Get all your Mountaineer gear at the Book Exchange. They've got over 90 years of experience, everything you need from game day to prove that you are the ultimate WVU fan. And of course, when you're shopping their 2 locations or online at bookexchangewv.com, make sure you use the promo code INTHEGUN20 for 20% off your order on your friends here at In the Gun. We are going to do kind of a little halfway conversation about this Mountaineer season. 6 games in the books, 6 games to go as we are at the bye week and kind of a perfect halfway point in the Mountaineer season. We'll do that in a few minutes on the other side, but to get us started here, just for a few minutes, I kind of said it in the teaser intro there, but stop me if you've heard this before, but another pretty substantial change coming to the college football transfer portal. And just kind of the entire overhaul and landscape of this game that we all love so much, that has changed so much in the last few years. Gentlemen, now there is going to be a one-time only college football transfer portal from January 12th until January 16th. Obviously, this continues to be during the college football playoff, which is less than ideal. Jed, I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect scenario, a perfect timeline for all of this. But how do you kind of take this news of the day, another pretty substantial change coming here, and one that is again, a kind of a now fundamental part of college football, every sport, but particularly college football.
To clarify, you said January 12th. It's actually January 2nd.
Oh, sorry. That is what I meant. Yeah, I was reading my notes too fast.
January 2nd through the 16th. And only in college football can the thing that it seemed like we were heading towards that everybody agreed needed done become a head scratcher as well, right? I mean, everybody agreed you can't have multiple portal windows. It's unsustainable. So they wanted to settle on one portal window. I don't know if there was much push against that, really. I mean, there was pretty much, wide agreement, broad agreement. It needed to be one window. I'm not so sure how they settled on that January 2nd window opening, but we'll get into that in a second. But first of all, one of the other changes that took place, Matt Zenitz from CBS Sports was reporting this. A caveat to this. In the past, when a coach was fired, players had 30 days to enter the portal
Yes.
from the time the coach was fired. Well, that changed as well. Now, when a coach is fired, the players cannot immediately enter the portal like they could before. Instead, they have to wait for the new coach to be hired, then wait 5 days after the new coach is hired. Then they have a 15-day window to enter.
Hmm.
Again, before, as soon as the coach is fired, you have 30 days. Now you got to wait till the new coach is hired, whenever that might be. And then you have 15, you have to wait 5 days, and then you have a 15-day window. But let's talk about these dates. January 2nd. Here's why I find that interesting. This can't be a coincidence. Guess what date last year, Wes, the quarterfinals took place of the playoffs? Not the first round, but the second round.
January 2nd?
December 31st and January 1st. So let's stop and consider some of the scenarios, you guys. You might have a situation where, take Ohio State, for instance. Let's say Ohio State is unbeaten. Ohio State's number one in the country. Julian Sayin won the Heisman Trophy, their quarterback. He's playing lights out. He throws 5 touchdowns in the first round. He throws 6 touchdowns in the second round. Now, all of a sudden, the day after the second round game, here comes the portal. Think of the leverage Julian Sayin now has, unless his quote-unquote contract is structured oh so perfectly. He's now in position to really hold Ohio State hostage. Hey, you want me to play in these last 2 games? Looks like we're on a run to win a national championship. You going to double my money? You going to double my rev share or my
I didn't think about
NIL or
it from
whatever it
that
might
way.
be?
Yeah.
Or I might just jump out and get into this portal and see what the market says. I mean, that's the unsettling part. You had a situation last year, not quite to that extent, but Bo Prabula from Penn State transfers to Missouri and ends up not participating in the playoffs in the postseason with Penn State. So, I mean, we're a step away from that type of thing happening. I'm not saying that Julian Sayin would do that. That's not the point. I was just using that as an example, but it kind of opens yet another door. Buckle up. Who knows what this might look like because it's right in the middle. Now, I would imagine maybe they're sitting there trying to, you know, uh, satisfy a lot of different things at the same time. And maybe one of those considerations is, well, what's it matter? These guys will sit out these games anyway and then jump in the portal if the portal's later. I don't know. I don't know what the conversations are sounding like behind closed doors, but what are your guys' thoughts on the portal window? Because there's also the high school dimension to it too. You have to think about National Signing Day and when that's going to come and if it's going to be moved again. But right in the middle of the playoffs, after game 2 of the playoffs, you still have 2 playoff games left if you're going to win a championship.
Yeah. I mean, I think it should be, after the national championship. It makes more sense to be after that last game, whether it's a week or 2 after it, that I guess they would figure that out to be the most fair for both parties, I guess. But I mean, to your point, but isn't this why we're paying kids anyways, so that they can get the upper hand and make as much money as they can? Isn't that why we're doing this anyways in the first place?
My guess would be we're still also in consideration of enrollment dates and semesters. And if you want to transfer, do you still have time to get enrolled for the spring semester? Well, if you put it later after the national
That's a
championship,
good point.
at most schools, you won't be able to enroll for the. That's the next thing to obviously change are the enrollment dates. I mean, to
Well,
think that this multi-billion-dollar enterprise is still getting held up by when a kid can
By
enroll in a
silly
semester to start a
academics.
semester. I mean, that's
Well,
the next thing that's about to change. I can't believe they still do that, but
yeah. Well, and they just need to change it because it's a paid position now. It's not amateurs, whatever they called it before. It's your professional sport.
athletes, yeah,
Yeah. There's no
yeah,
doubt.
it's
And again, it's I don't think
know,
there's
Wes.
there's never going to be a perfect answer. There's never going to be something that works out, for the Ohio States and for the bottom of the barrel teams. I
Well,
think
the perfect.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Wes.
No,
I
you're
mean,
good.
dude. I mean, collective bargaining agreement. You guys got to make a players union, and
Totally.
I mean, they just need to get on board with the model that's already the predecessor to,
Yeah, what?
this whole deal
See, that's just
anyways. I
it,
mean,
Owen.
you're not
We're
going
only
to
halfway in.
rewrite what you know what I'm saying? You're not going to rewrite what
Yeah.
the NFL's already done. You're not. They have the business model laid out. If I was you, I would consult them. Hey, we got a Schmitt show here at the NC2A level. We need, we need help. I mean, and they do, because it's still I mean, dude, think about these. I just think about agents ripping kids off. Just how all this money is being talked about, how it's even being, we're not paying them. We're paying them for their name, image, and likeness, but they're not paid.
Yeah, well, college agents,
Positions.
as you know,
It just
college agents don't have to be certified. Anybody can do it.
That's what I'm saying.
In
It's
the
it's all
NFL,
a
there's a
crapshoot.
certification process to weed out the
Yes,
slappos. So so Uncle
yes, and it should.
Johnny isn't your
That's
agent.
what I
That's
mean.
right. Yeah.
And it should be that way. I mean, it
The
should be that
fundamental
way. If you
problem with college sports is we're halfway into the pro model, but the half that we're not creates all the problems. We're only
yeah,
halfway in, but we're reluctant to go all the way in. And the
yeah,
fact that we're only halfway there, all the problems arise from the other half. Like the NFL has this figured out, obviously, better than
yeah,
anybody does. But as you touched on, Owen, here's what has to happen: some arrangement has to be collectively bargained. Now, the way labor law works in the United States, collectively bargained agreements are only honored if one side is an organized union of some sort or
yeah,
organized labor of some sort. If you're just a group of guys saying, hey, let's go negotiate, that's not going to work. You can't have a CBA. So, first, you have to have some sort of organization. And here, brace for it, buckle up. Here come the comments. That's the last thing we want. It is unavoidable at this point. It is
yeah,
patently unavoidable. If you want the game to survive on any level, the game we used to watch is over. But if you want the game to survive on any level, that's the next step, whether we like it or not. You don't have to like it. I don't. But it is the next necessary step. And once that happens, you'll have some form of collective bargaining. But then you have to answer the question: collective bargaining with whom? Who on the other side is going to sit there on the other side of the table and negotiate with the athletes? We haven't even figured that part out. There's not one unified voice. There's not a college football commissioner. There's a different commissioner for every conference. And all the presidents still have to say. I mean, we can't even get on the same page with that. So there has to be a unified front to negotiate. There has to be some form of organization from the athletes. Then you come together. Then you collectively bargain. Then you work all these things out. Because right now, we're halfway into a pro model. And every time we discuss one of these problems, it always arises from the half that we're not. We're still trying to cling on to something that no longer exists. I mean, again, we're
yeah,
sitting here talking about a kid can't enroll because the semester starts January 15th. Meanwhile, they're generating billions of dollars, and in
Yeah.
every other way, they're not at all being treated like a college student, right? But in this one way, it just doesn't make sense around the board. I mean, there are so many holes in any kind of logic right now and this is the painful process of working towards some sort of resolution, which will happen because, again, the current model is patently unsustainable. Changes will come. This is one more thing for now, and I'm quite certain this will change. Again, I would imagine these dates line up because if it's past January 16th, a lot of schools you're not going to be able to enroll. And they want to be able to enroll right after the portal window, jump in the spring and take part in spring ball. You'd like to line it up so it's right next to National Signing Day, and National Signing Day, keep that thing in February. It's an imperfect world, and they're trying to make the most of it. But not like when we played. It's right. It's a lot different, isn't it?
It's much different, and it's changing every day, every week, every month. It's something that it's been an ongoing. We've had so many of these discussions in the 4-year history of this podcast already. And gentlemen, we're going to, spoiler alert once again, we're going to have many more of these conversations as we go forward. But that's what we know. That's where we're at right now, and kind of the latest change to an ever-changing landscape across college football. We've got to get to our break here. When we return on the other side, we will focus on the Mountaineers. 6 games down, What have we liked? What have we not liked? What do we want to see in these final 6 games? We'll kind of just roundtable conversation at the midway point at the bye week for the Mountaineers of this 2025 season. We'll do all that and more when we return. Wes Uhler, Owen Schmitt, Jed Drenning, Schuyler hopping in here soon. You are in the gun.
For nearly 20 years, Fortis has been the nation's leader in providing guaranteed roof performance programs for commercial buildings. Fortis offers roof performance solutions that feature extensive initial and ongoing reconditioning for commercial buildings as an alternative to traditional replacement, with long-term performance guarantees that are backed by global leader Lloyd's of London. Fortis offers a comprehensive range of roof performance management programs that provide financial security, extend the life of our customers' roofs, and make a significant impact on ROI. Fortis is currently improving performance and increasing ROI for customers at more than 4,800 locations, with more than 140 million square feet protected, including many Fortune 500 companies that have turned to Fortis to save money, gain financial certainty, and extend the life of their existing roofs. Fortis has helped customers save more than $520 million in capital roof replacement costs for an average ROI of over 250%. To learn more, visit fortis.us.com. Fortis, roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed.
Nobody supports the blue and gold Mountaineers like Toothman Ford. With over 20 NIL deals and counting, Toothman Ford continues to rally behind our student athletes. And it's time we rally and support the dealer that supports the Mountaineers. Not only does Toothman Ford offer the best prices in the state on pre-owned, their never over MSRP campaign on new Fords guaranteed to save you thousands. Drive with pride all season long, knowing you're supporting the dealer that fuels our Mountaineers. Toothman Ford, where cars cost less, in Grafton and at toothmanford.com.
You're listening to Mountaineer Football Talk.
ITG. When the sun's just rising and the work won't wait, you need the equipment that works just as hard as you do. Johnson Equipment delivers power, performance, and reliability day in, day out. Whether you're plowing fields, hauling loads, or planting the future, our tractors are built to take it and then some. Strong, reliable, ready. 0% financing available for up to 84 months on select models.
Johnson Equipment, farming made easy.
Get all your Mountaineer gear in WVU apparel at the Book Exchange. They're the locally owned and operated retailer with more than 90 years of selling everything you need for game day and everything else you need to show you're the ultimate WVU fan. Shop at their 2 locations at downtown Morgantown or Evansdale on Pattison Drive, or online at bookexchangewv.com.
When shopping online at bookexchangewv.com, be sure to enter code INTHEGUN20 at checkout for an awesome savings of 20%. That's right, 20%.
Back in the gun here as we roll along through the WVU bye week and at the halfway mark of the Mountaineers season. 6 games in the books, 6 more to go. And gentlemen, we're going to get into some thoughts on the offense, the defense, the special teams, everything we've seen thus far. But I just wanted to start here. I think particularly on the back of the conversation we all just had about the transfer portal. And again, I mean, year after year now of the ever-changing landscape of college football, whether it's portal, whether it's NIL, whether it's conference realignment, all these different things. One thing, gentlemen, that really struck me about these first 6 games of the season, and again, kind of just piggybacking off of what we were just talking about with the transfer portal and still pretending that maybe college football and you know, big money collegiate athletics are still something that they are not. One thing that has not changed, gentlemen, it doesn't matter if it's 2025 or if it's 1925, is that rivalries matter. Rivalry is the lifeblood of college football. It doesn't matter if you're Ohio State and Michigan and it's a spot for a national championship. It doesn't matter if you're Yale and Harvard and it's a spot for which one of these future businessmen and presidents and lawyers and doctors are better football players on a given Saturday, right? Rivalry matters. And as much as we've had a lot of ups and downs through these first 6 games, and I think that was to be expected. Owen and I were kind of talking about this before you hopped on, Jed. Just, you know, yeah, the first 6 games have been a roller coaster, and there's still a lot that we got to figure out. And that was, I think, kind of to be expected coming into this season. I think some people were thinking we're going to win 9 or 10 games. Some people were thinking we're going to win 1 or 2 games. But I think most people were in between and realized there'd be some ups, there'd be some downs, there'd be some highs, there'd be some lows. But you had 80-plus new players, and there were certainly going to be some growing pains. But aren't those growing pains a little bit easier to stomach when you beat your rival? Even when you're having a crappy season, isn't it nice to be able to hang your hat and say, yeah, we got those bastards from the Oakland district of Pittsburgh. And particularly in a year like this, where now it's going to be 4 years until we play each other. I'm gonna miss it for this 3 year absence until we have that backyard brawl reunion 4 years from now. But throughout this last 3 game stretch where things have not gone the Mountaineer way, and I think particularly against Utah where it was bad from start to finish, man, I just kept reminding myself this is why rivalry matters. Even when you have a season like this where there is not a ton to be excited about to this point, still certainly a lot more question marks and unknowns than answers. And just again, like I said, jumping off of what we all just talked about there to open the show, man, rivalry still matters. We saw that from Rich Rodriguez and his reaction. We saw that from everybody in Mountaineer Nation. And that's one thing that I am glad has not changed over the 150 some years of this sport, and from Rich Rodriguez's first era in Morgantown to his second.
Agreed.
Would you rather be 2-4 with a win over Pitt or 4-2 without one? I think we all know the answer. Nobody wanted to be 2-4. First of all, let's start with that.
That's a good one, Jed.
Nobody wanted to be 2-4. Would you rather be 2-4 with a win over Pitt or 4-2 with a loss to Pitt? Now, some people might start parsing answers. Well, who'd you lose to? Did you lose to Ohio still, or did you lose 2 Big 12 games? Or are you no longer the whatever? If you lost to Ohio, now that means you're 2-1 in the league and blah, blah, whatever. Okay. I think the answer would probably shift maybe a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong. If somebody says, would you rather be 2-4 with a win over Pitt or 5-1 with a loss to Pitt? I think I'm still 2-4 with a win over Pitt, right? Now, some might change their answer at that point. Leave in the comments, please. We're interested to see your thoughts, because everybody's saying, well, hey, if you're 5-1, you're pushing for a chance to play in Jerry World. And yeah, that's true. But on some level, it would feel hollow if that one loss was to Pitt. So, yeah, that's a great point on your part, Wes. That's a great point. That does carry a lot of weight under any circumstances in any given season, whether you're having a great year, whether you're having a poor year. Owen beating Pitt, just you know better than anybody what that means.
Yeah, I think and I did we're doing this documentary, and it's called Covering the Spread. It's basically the transition from the Nealon era to the Coach Rod era. Well, in filming this documentary, this was before Coach Rod was even at West Virginia. He was still at Jack State. So, like, we didn't know Coach Rod was going to end up coming back to Morgantown. So it's funny how it worked out. But, in my just my experience, right? Just my experience alone. And I'm sure there was other people that felt the same way, and fans, ex-players, whatever, people of the program, friends of the program. That win for myself was a very, it was like a healing game sort of for me. And I know we said that kind of like when we did the recap and stuff like that, but it's just. It's a long time coming. I hope people really get out and watch this documentary too, because there's a huge backstory that's missed, uh, and it's natural, I guess, because throughout history that's what that ends up happening if the story isn't told anymore, and it gets forgotten. So it's a wonderful story, but I think beating Pitt is for me. I'm good on this season. I mean, I was talking to Wes when you dropped there, Jed, and it was like, this is a 6 week evaluation basically of who you really got, because you didn't have a spring ball to do this with anybody because they all left, and the ones that did stay, you kind of already had your evaluation, but it was a handful of athletes. So, we're at the point where we're still now, 4.5 months in with these kids. It's your halfway evaluation. I feel like the bye couldn't have came at a better time. Um, and there's been improvement. We've seen a plethora of players just due to injury, which has, been crazy. So, I don't think the hard edge is completely instilled yet in Morgantown. I'm not knocking anybody. Look, I'm not knocking anybody, but
It's a
you'll
process.
learn what it is. Yeah, it's a process, and you'll be able to play through bumps and bruises, and it's a different game too. Steve always, uh, when he is asked the question, "Do you think you guys would have split up, or you would have took the money?" It's so easy to say no because of the success we had, but let's be honest, if somebody was throwing a couple mil at either one of those guys, it would have been very easy for that gang to get split up. You know what I mean? But getting back to the point of the pit game, hey, I'd rather be where we're at right now. We're a young team. We don't really know what we are yet. We're missing key positions at every position, and it's just, I think for Rich and them, it's going to be a good evaluation week to kind of, get in that 6 week evaluation. Hey, this is where we're at. I mean, you really still don't know. You do, but you don't, because there's been so much change with the roster. But, we'll see going forward what they do this week. I'm sure they're going to be practicing, but I'm sure there's, it's a big healing week for them too. They got to get healthy, man, because right now we're in shambles, dude. It's we're like peanut brittle right now.
Sir Callahan has joined us, so we'll ask him. We're discussing the question, Schuyler.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather be 2-4 as we currently are right now with a win over Pitt? Nobody wanted to be 2-4, but here we are. Would you rather be 2-4 with a win over Pitt or 4-2 with a loss to Pitt?
Oh, I mean, I think that's easy. I think to me it is. I'd
it's
rather
kind of
be
cheating. It's kind of like I feel like the question would also be a little different if we were going to continue to play Pitt for the next few years. If there wasn't going to be this 4-year pause.
Yeah.
But the sit there and think that you'd look. I've told people for the last 2 weeks during these dark, gloomy times, right? That just imagine how much worse this situation would be had you not won that game. It's already bad, but if you don't win that game,
5 straight losses.
No, well, I mean, yeah, the 1-5 record would certainly not be good, but just the fact that you had that and that fan base on top of you and your mentions every single day for the next 3 years while you figure this out, I don't know. I don't know how we'd be able to take it.
Owen, you just hit on it. Who knows what we might do or not do? I'm not making any promises here. I'm not delusional as to say we're going to win every game the rest of the way. I have no idea what we might do, but anything's possible with 6 games remaining in terms of what you string together, what kind of success, what kind of run you might go on. Who knows if things start clicking? I mean, we'll go through some of the possibilities and some of the good and some of the bad. But whatever you end up doing, you'll be doing it as a team that beat Pitt. If you win 4 of your final 6 and go to a bowl game, you're a bowl team that beat Pitt, no matter what you do. If you don't win another game, you finish 2-10, you're a 2-10 team that beat Pitt. If you win the rest of them, okay, and you win 6 more, you're an 8-4 team that beat Pitt. But if you're 4-2, same thing, no matter what you do after that. We went to Jerry World and we got beat by Baylor. Yeah, but you also got beat by Pitt. So I never really cared as much because you got beat by Pitt, So,
yep.
To your point, Owen, there it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that was kind of my initial observation was just as much as college football has changed in the last 5-6 years, it is nice that rivalry still matters. And man, I think especially in a year like this, rivalry really, really matters. All right, so who's up next? Who wants to jump in with another observation or a specific thought wherever you guys want to go? Roundtable this thing.
I'll jump in. Obviously, I don't know what was discussed previously, but
that's it. Really, just the rivalry. Okay. We talked the portal stuff a little bit, and then as much as college football is changing, it's nice that element's still the same.
Right.
Going to give an overview. We'll discuss for each side of the ball. So you guys go ahead and just freewheel it. You know what I mean?
this could be a little out there, but I think the one thing that people need to keep in mind is that they had to field a team this year. Like they legitimately had to go and field a team. They had only a certain amount of time to go after kids in the transfer portal. They had to get guys in here before spring to have enough guys to really operate in spring ball. So my theory has been, and I don't know if it's so much that they missed on a bunch of guys in the portal. It might look like that. But I think what you'll see is in years to come, as more high school recruiting classes come in and you have 30 plus high school kids coming in, that transfer portal number is going to continue to shrink, which also means you're not casting as wide of a net in the transfer portal. You're going to have more concentrated areas because you're going to know what your needs are. When they came into this thing, they took the job, they were flying blind. They had no idea what the hell their needs were going to be. So, what I think they did, this is just me speaking my mind here. I think they just went out and said, we're going to go get a bunch of seniors that are maybe hungry, have something to prove, and let them finish their year out and have some experienced guys to do that, but also have some guys that are raw, developmental, whatever you want to call it, that maybe those are the guys you're really hoping that you hit on. So I think of the offensive line, for example, like you bring in Chemo, you bring in Ty Keast and Walter Youngbear. Those guys didn't really play a ton at their previous schools. Give them a chance. See what they can do. Malik Agbos, Donovan Haslam, Josh Asosa, those are the guys you really want to develop and hope those are going to be the pieces in the future. So that's just my opinion. I think the transfer portal hit rate is going to be much higher every year after this. It's just this first year you had to get so many new players. It's really hard to bat better than 30 or 35% on those guys.
Almost feels like this is as close as you're going to get to an expansion team in college football, like an old school expansion.
It really
team.
is.
You know, I mean, that's really what this feels like. It feels like the old school NFL style expansion team. Like you show up in December, you're speed dating, you're like, hey, where's our roster? And it's like when you hear Jack McNell talking, he's like, hey, I was told you're the O-line coach. You got 4 guys. Oh, I got 4 starters. No, you got 4 guys. 4 guys in your room that usually has 15. You know, usually have 15 or 16. There's 4 guys on the roster. What? I have to go out and sign 11 or 12 guys? Whoa, okay. So, Owen, that's kind of where we are. It's an expansion team with 81 new players. And get your quick thoughts there. Like I said, I'm going to jump into an overview. I'll hit the offense or hit the defense. We'll talk some special teams. But what are your thoughts, Big?
It's like Jack Bignell was playing Tinder this offseason on the transfer portal.
Sure. He was, yeah. Yeah.
Hey, let's be honest though, and I just briefly ran over this when I went on my ramble before you jumped on, Schuyler. You know, you think he gets we got the guys for spring, they bolt. We got these 80 new cats. You know, this is basically like their evaluation period over the last 4 months. I mean, 4.5, whatever you want to call it, and some change. But he's been able to get, like I said, a large amount of actual game film on these guys now, with just because of the injuries, But I definitely see where you're coming from as far as, hey, let's just get a couple guys to fill the roster here. We'll get some of our underclassmen and we'll see what they can do. They're going to get some reps. It's just a lot to ask of a staff once you just cleaned house again, to try to make basically chicken salad out of chicken Schmitt. You know what I mean? It doesn't happen like that. And
well, that's going to be one of the upcoming episodes of barbecuing with the beer truck, right?
Yes. So many people like try to compare like the Signetti thing, jumping from JMU to Indiana, and I just think to myself, like, there was a large amount of players that went with him.
Much larger than this.
That's what I'm saying. Like you were basically able to get your offense and defense ones lined out with what you brought. This was not the same case. It's not even close to the same case. You got like a player, you know what I mean, from like Jack State. And I'm not discrediting those other guys that might have came too, but the 6 week review, we have one player that came from there that is an actual baller, and he is probably, if not the
Two.
best player on
I'd
our
say two.
offensive squad. Yeah, two. But you know what I'm saying? We got those two guys they're probably our top five. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If
Oh
not
yeah.
the top two, anyways, just them.
Now the only thing you
So
missed, Owen,
it's
when you said those guys bolted, you were supposed to use quotation marks. At the end of the spring, they bolted. You got to put your quotation marks up.
oh,
They wink
sorry.
wink bolted. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. They
Yeah,
bolted. Yeah. Some
yeah.
of them were addition by subtraction, but that's the nature of speed dating in the
Oh.
transfer portal, right? But uh
I think
so
it's
that's how
so
it
hard for
works.
people to understand too. Like you're not just putting a team together, you're rolling the ball out there and say go play. Like you have to really teach your schemes and to teach 80 plus new guys. Well, not even 80. You're teaching 100 plus guys because you're
20.
everyone's
Yeah.
new. When in a normal year, in a normal setting, you're talking what, 25 ish players or so with high school kids in portal, maybe 30.
Yeah.
You're doing more teaching than you are actually practicing and getting better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which leads to these types of numbers.
Absolutely, dude.
81
Absolutely.
new guys playing together. Let's start on the offense. All right. We've struggled in a lot of key areas, obviously. Here's what you're hoping. The worst is behind you, and you see slow progress, but progress over the balance of the final 6 games, and maybe that translates into some success on the field. Okay. Scoring offense toward the bottom of the league, 15th. Total offense, 12th in the Big 12. There's 16 teams in the Big 12. Passing offense, no surprise, we're dead last. Rushing offense, that's the closest we've had to something we hang our hat on. We're fourth in the Big 12. Red zone touchdown percentage, pretty good job. We're pretty solid. Fourth in the Big 12, and I think we can get better with the athleticism at quarterback. That matters when the field shrinks inside the 20, and that's what we're going to be working with for the better part of the second half of the season. Third downs, this has been a struggle all year, but the most hopeful things that I saw came most recently against a very good BYU defense that entered the game in Provo, 7th in the nation against third down. We were 7 of 14 guys, and you saw the added dimension of Khalil Wilkins and Scotty Fox and what they could do help out from a play call situation. Because again, it's not like we're facing a bunch of 3rd and 3s. You got to start getting on script if you want to have more success on third down. But I see that as a promising sign in that dimension of the game. 7 of 14 on third down at BYU is by far the most success we've had in looking at these 5 FBS opponents. Third down percentage is up to 31%, but it was 27 before that. So keep that ticking and see what happens. Now, tackles for loss allowed, it seems like a marginal difference. We're 10th in the league, allowing 5.5 tackles for loss a game. That counts sacks. They fold that in. Last year at Jack State, they led Conference USA with the fewest, but it was only 4.3. We're not that far off what Rich usually is. It's just, in other words, on average, a little more than once a game, we're getting knocked backwards. The biggest thing is you got to turn more plays into positives. It's not because we're so consistently getting knocked backwards. We're just not consistently enough moving forwards. Okay, let's go. The pass block grade, we're 12th in the Big 12. Run block grade, dead last in the Big 12. These are PFF metrics. And then when you look at some of the raw numbers, splash plays, for instance, 25 plus yard pass plays, we have 9 of them. Again, we're not going to kill you throwing the ball so far. That's 11th in the league. Run plays of 20 plus yards. Guys, we're 3rd in the league. And that's about where we are, 10 plus yard run plays. So something to build on. But here's the big this stat here speaks to an offensive line that never met or knew each other's names until last spring, some of them not even until the summer. No continuity, haven't played together. That's where this last stat comes from. Rushes that were hit at the line of scrimmage. You know how many times we've been hit at the line of scrimmage before a play has a chance to develop? 61 times, the most in college football.
Whew.
So in other words, you're asking somebody to shake loose a tackler just to pick up one.
And
so
Jaheim White
again,
ain't
that's
around
a
right now.
And Jaheim White ain't walking through that door.
Issue. That's right. You know, it's 5 guys that haven't played together. And when you start inserting new faces, it's more guys that haven't played together. Those are the growing pains part of it. Like when you think back to Rich's first offensive line in 2001, I mean, we were toward the bottom of the Big East in just about every key category. 4 of those 5 starters returned to next year, and we're second in the nation in rushing the football. Continuity matters, especially in this system. Now, let's look at overall total offense. What did we gain versus what our 5 FBS opponents are giving up on average? Well, we're averaging against those 5 opponents. I'm just scrapping out Robert Morris and looking at the other 5.
Sure.
We've averaged 329 yards a game against those 5 teams. If you average it out, they're giving up 322 yards a game. So we've actually been slightly ahead of the curve in terms of what they have given up. I mean, even Utah, 346, they're giving up 300. Believe it or not, BYU's only giving up 240 a game. We had 291. That felt anemic, but that was a good, salty defense. From a scoring offense standpoint, let's look at how we're doing putting actual points on the board. How does that production, that yardage translate in scoring? These 5 teams on average are giving up 18.8 points a game. Not so great news. We're only scoring 17.8. So we're a little below average in terms of what teams have done against those 5 teams. Now, here's where you start to turn a corner and look like you might have something to build on. From a rushing offense standpoint, the 5 FBS teams we faced have given up an average of, let me see here, 92 yards. Okay. Let me see. No, I take it back. They've got up an average of 124 yards. I'm looking at the number now. And we've gained 169. So 45 yards over the average allowed by those 5 teams. Guys, our last 4 games, in other words, if you look at just the power conference teams, our last 4 games, those 4 teams are giving up an average of 114 yards rushing. We've gained an average of 193, plus 79. Look at Pitt. We ran for 174 yards against them. They're number 1 in the ACC against the run and number 2 in the country, giving up only 65 yards a game. We won because we ran for 174. That was a huge part of that game. So a little bit of something to build on if you're looking at something, the offense. Now, again, if you continue to improve and continue to get this thing humming, like I think back to the last time, for instance, Rich was together with Jack Bicknell. It was 2019. They were at Ole Miss. They had 2 freshman quarterbacks with varying skill sets. One was a true dynamic, explosive runner, very twitchy, John Rice Plumlee. The other was Matt Corral. Yes, he was somewhat athletic, but he was more of a passer, and they had to balance that out and find ways to get those guys in rhythm. The offense became more and more productive as they got humming down the stretch until ultimately John Rice Plumlee against the number 1 team in the country in LSU in week 11 ran for 200 and some yards and 4 touchdowns. So you're just trying to get a little better each week, and hopefully in the second half of the season, some of that will start to bear fruit. But when I look at some of the names, okay, obviously we can discuss the quarterbacks all the live long day, but if we're going to do something in the final 6 games, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me the most likely path to getting there has to involve Ty Edwards. Maybe not, but it feels like that would be very beneficial to us to get Ty Edwards humming and healthy. And now you have that battery of backs that would include Dior Hubbard, that would include whoever else you want to mix in. I like Dior's playing hard, okay? And I think the yards will eventually come as the production in the O-line comes in front of him. But if Ty Edwards gets humming, maybe that's what we need. Maybe not. Maybe you can do it without that happening. We'll see. But, Owen, you touched on Cam Vaughn. I'm going to close with the offense here. Cam Vaughn is putting up, when you look at the numbers that he has, they're very similar to that splash season he had as a freshman last year at Jack State. His per game averages from a reception standpoint, from a yards per game standpoint, his numbers are very similar. But there's a fundamental difference. At WVU so far through 6 games, he's very obviously done this the hard way. This has been a disjointed, uneven offense. Last year, they were mauling people in the run game at Jack State. They were running over people, which set up beautiful play action opportunities for Cam Vaughn just to torch people in single coverage. It set the table perfectly for him. So for him to come close to matching his numbers or putting similar numbers out there, this year within the ecosystem of this offense, guys, that's really impressive. And I'm very optimistic about what Cam Vaughn might look like if this offense on any level starts to improve and becomes a little more well-rounded. I'm excited to see what he might be able to do. And then we can have discussions about, we've talked about you need a complementary piece on the other side in addition to Gallagher, but that's what I got on the offense. We'll do something similar with the defense, but I wanted to toss it back to you guys and get your thoughts on the offense.
Well, Jed, real quick, just piggybacking off of that as well. The WVU passer rating from a clean pocket versus under pressure is a drastic difference. Now, this isn't going to surprise most people. That's the case with, I mean, like you take like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes out of the equation. That's the case with everybody in football, right? I mean, quarterbacks are much more accurate from a clean pocket than when they're under pressure. But the difference for WVU is startling. WVU quarterbacks passer rating from a clean pocket is 97.1. That's very good. Passer rating under pressure, 19.5. I mean, that is off the face of a cliff. To give you an example, UCF, who we're about to see this, this upcoming weekend, or pardon me, in the next game, you get it, after the bye week. Our next opponent, UCF.
On deck.
Their passer rating from a clean pocket, 93.3. So not terribly far behind WVU's 97%. Where we're at a 19.5 under pressure, they're at a 69% nice under pressure. As you can see, that's like a normal drop-off, about 20 to 30 points.
You know what that is, Wes? You hit a great point there. That is a veteran quarterback who has played at multiple schools that understands what duress and pressure mean. Correct. Versus two freshman quarterbacks who have struggled, which I left, and I'm glad you mentioned that. The one critical piece that I left out that I have my notes here that I wanted to add, also 11 turnovers offensively, the most in the Big 12. That can't continue. Yes, we have two young quarterbacks. Yes, Rich is trying to shrink the game plan and simplify things to cater to those two young quarterbacks, but you have to be more judicious with the football. That can't continue if you want to have any chance to string some things together in the second half. A great point on your part with the pressure piece.
I mean, that's nearly a 50% difference in passer rating under pressure between our quarterbacks and UCF. That's one of those things that, again, I'm not saying that that's like to be unexpected when you are trotting out a lot of different quarterbacks and two of them are freshmen. But that to me is noticeable, and there's rhyme to that reason. But that's one thing that I hope we see stabilize a little bit here in the final 6 games.
Oh, great call.
I was gonna say too, and this could be slightly off topic, but the $5 million in the bank, surely this kind of like definitely goes against your point, or not against it, but like supports it. Just with
and they explain what you mean. Well, that's $5 million we didn't spend.
Yeah, we didn't spend
this year that we'll have in the bank in addition to next year. So
yeah. So we didn't go out and just try to blow all our money. We there's definitely a method to the madness between why Rich would have held that, I mean, whether it was for coaches or whatever else, or whatever it's spent for players, obviously, but I mean, it's there's money in the bank, there's piggies in the bank to go out and get some of those guys, because we're gonna need key needs, but that $5 million on top of whatever happens next year with what we got is quite substantial when you talk about going out and getting a few studs.
Yeah, this isn't like the NFL salary cap, right? Right, Schuyler. It's not like, hey, here's your cap, because the truth of it is, yes, there's a cap, but it's difficult to come up with the additional NIL money. It's not like you just have it sitting around. So to Owen's point, if there's $5 million in the coffers that you didn't use to that end this year, the way this works is, yes, to a large extent, you can fold that over because there's the cap that's on the revenue share piece of it. You're not allowed to exceed your cap as an athletic department. There's no cap on the NIL side of it. So that's where some other schools like the Brands and the SEC and Texas Tech have made their hay with the NIL piece of it. Yes, they're maxing out their rev share, but they also have a ton of money in their NIL war chest. So if we can throw an extra $5 million in toward next year, maybe use it all, maybe not, maybe fold more of it forward. I don't know. What do you think, Schuyler?
Yeah, I think it's a smart play for a lot of schools in West Virginia's situation to do because you want to buy yourself some time because also too that number I believe is supposed to increase by like 1.5%, right? Every
Every
year.
year the contract it'll go up slightly. Each of the next 10 years it slightly goes up. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's no guarantee that each of those years you're going to have that full number. Now, some
Which is
you
why the
would
Board of
think,
Governors saying what
yes,
they said a
then you
couple,
should.
month ago, 5 weeks ago, we discussed on the show. That's why that was such seminal news.
Right.
Because the fact that the university at large is willing to get behind that to ensure that we do reach. Explain to people real quickly what we're talking about. The House decision said they took the average athletic department income of every power conference school, and they said we're going to take 20% of that. So it ended up being like 20.8 million. That's the cap that each athletic department is allowed to spend on all its sports. You can divide it up however you see fit. Football will get the most at just about every school will. Right behind men's basketball is number two, and then you divide up the rest. But it can't be more than 20.8 million. What Schuyler's saying is that 20.8 million is going to go up a little bit each year. This is a 10-year contract, not contract, but 10-year decision. So next year it might go up to, let's say, 22 million. It's going to go up a little each year until it gets like 30 million by the end of the terms of the deal. So, yeah, that's true too. You're going to have more room and a wider berth in terms of what you're allowed to do and divvy that up.
Yeah, and I mean that's why I think it's going to be key for schools like West Virginia to maybe be smart and be patient, know when to go necessarily all in or close to all in because you don't want to do that in year one. I mean, how many times like Big O said, you mean the Indiana thing I think is it's so you see those situations so far and few between. And this is more the norm where you're going to go through these struggles. I mean, it is what it is. But back on the offense, real quick, I'll get my thoughts. So I think first and foremost, you want one or both, if we're really being greedy here, Khalil Wilkins and Scotty Fox, to show you that they can maybe be the guy in 26. You'd like for one of them to, but if they don't have a separation there, you'd like to at least have enough there to where you feel comfortable going into next fall camp with those two duking it out versus an oh crap moment. We've got to go spend money in the portal on a quarterback, and you don't want to get in that kind of market.
Totally.
It's going to be an expensive deal. You don't want to do that. You're only in year two. You really want to build with one of those young guys. And then more so around the offense, I think the receivers have to be more explosive. And because Scotty and Khalil and the other quarterbacks that have been in the game haven't really pushed the ball vertically a ton with a lot of success, they're going to have to make some more things happen in space and just be a little bit more slippery, have a little bit more wiggle to them. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but it doesn't feel like there's been enough explosive plays generated in the pass game and when it's not coming on a deep ball down the field. And I'm talking like the quick stuff underneath that turns into a big 20-yard gain.
Mm-hmm.
There needs to be more of that. Now you have another receiver off the roster, makes it a little tougher, but we'll see.
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah, that it's that I think the good news is there's not a lot of mystery with this stuff, you know? They know what they need to accomplish, they know what they need to find out, they know what they need to build towards in these final 6 games, and getting back to the evaluation period. That's probably the biggest piece of this, right? Is who you taking with you. This is chapter 1 of a new era, of a new book. Who you taking with you into chapter 2 in 2026 is the most important thing, even probably more so than wins and losses in these final 6 games. Figuring out who you're building around, setting that culture. Schuyler, I remember you did a really good kind of piece on this at the beginning of the season, about how, setting that culture is just as important as wins and losses this year going forward. And you've still got 6 real important data points in all those regards and in that process the rest of the way here.
Yeah, you sure do. And again, you hope that you have some pieces on the offensive side to build on. There's optimism and reason to believe that maybe you do. A couple of these guys we talked about, yes, it's senior heavy, as are both sides of the football. But the quarterback room, a couple of those faces aren't. You have a little bit of youth at some key positions, including Cam Vaughn, who's in his second year. When you look up front on the offensive line, you have a possibility of, you heard Schuyler mention Malik Agbo. Malik Agbo is a guy that when you watch him on tape, yes, he's impressive, but what catches up to him is his lack of size. And that's something in the span of one off season can be addressed.
That
You
goal
get
line play.
25, Mike. Yeah, exactly. But, next year with 25 additional Mike Joseph pounds, that's not what you're going to see from him. The technique's there, the size, the weight, the girth, that's not. But that can be addressed. At the other tackle spot, again, Nick Cray, an incredibly athletic kid, potential returner there. Landon Livingston at center. Yes, you have your senior heavy at your guard spots, but so who knows what you might be looking at in terms of returning possibilities on the offensive side of the football. But if you guys got nothing else on the offense, I'll jump to the defense.
Let's do
clear?
it. Yep.
All right. Same type of run through on the defensive side. Scoring defense started out salty, not so much. 14th in the Big 12. Total defense 13th. Pass defense 12th. Rush defense 10th. Red zone touchdown percentage. Again, we've kind of done a good job of swelling up. We're fourth in the Big 12, allowing a touchdown only 50% of the time on red zone trips. And one of the other things that stood out to me real quick as a caveat, I like to look at outright red zone stops. How many times you hold somebody truly scoreless in the red zone, not just out of the end zone, but not even a field goal or a touchdown. And we have 5 times already in 6 games done that, which is tied for the most in the Big 12.
Damn.
So when the field shrinks, Zach Alley's creativity does help.
Eli Holstein, thank you.
Thank you. Third downs, 34% we've allowed success on. That's middle of the pack, 9th in the Big 12. I think that's an area that we can improve. This is the one that needs to change. We consider ourselves a pressure-oriented defense, which we absolutely are. Pressure is Zach Alley's thing. That's his DNA. That's who he is. And yes, there are other ways to affect the quarterback other than outright getting home on a sack. But guys, quietly, this defense has now won 3 straight games without a sack.
Yikes.
That snuck up on you, didn't it? 3 straight games. I mean, it wasn't long ago, 5 minutes ago, we were ranked in the top 5 in the country after sacking Pitt 6 times. Well, you plummet out of those rankings when you go 3 straight games sackless. Now, again, there are other ways to put a quarterback under duress. There's hits, there's hurries, there's knockdowns. But at some point, you have to start finishing the deal and impacting things with change of yardage sacks. So that needs to change. The takeaways, guys, we talked in the preseason. If we can get to 20, we'd be happy. And that will be with a 12-game season. We're halfway there at 10, which is number 3 in the Big 12. This is how these feel like. Sometimes you're going to have a game with 0. Sometimes you have 1. But then, boom, here's 3. And those 3 kind of snuck up on you against think about this, against BYU. BYU was an offense that had gone 3 straight games without a turnover. And we forced 3 against that offense. Another, if you want signs of positivity or a silver lining, that's one for you right there. TFLs per game, we're only at 5.2. That goes right hand to hand with that sack total. Again, the way they track that, sacks count as TFLs. Okay. Quarterback sacks are one thing. Knocking a runner backwards is another thing, but together they're TFLs. So we're 13th in the Big 12 there. That number needs to increase. 30-plus yard plays allowed, kind of splash plays. We've allowed 15. Big plays have been an Achilles heel for us. We've seen that how many times so far since Kansas. The big plays have crushed us. We're 15th in the Big 12 so far. That needs to improve. Missed tackles. 14 a game so far. But again, the positive sign, single digits against BYU. So trending in the right direction. Our tackle grade on PFF follows suit with what you see on tape. We're toward the bottom of the league there. Same with our coverage grade, toward the bottom of the league there. Now, if you want to line up, do the same thing I did offensively, how do we stack up from a total defense yardage allowed standpoint in each of the 5 games against our FBS opponents versus what their average has been? Guys, our last 5 opponents, our FBS opponents, have averaged 438 yards of offense. We've allowed them 443, so slightly more than what they've averaged, and that's really exploded over the course of the last 3 games. That really has, and those blowout losses, that's kind of taken a toll. But when you look at the same thing with points, this is a little surprising. The last 5 opponents, all FBS opponents, they're scoring an average. Here are the offenses we face, guys. Now, bear in mind, we faced 3 Big 12 teams. They're 13-3. Those 3 Big 12 teams we faced. Yep. We faced 3 really good Big 12 teams,
Jed,
that are well-rounded and have a very effective offense.
Just real quick for you, Jed. According to Pro Football Focus's formula, WVU has played the 15th most difficult schedule in the country to this point.
There you go. And that says a lot. So you're saying, well, we've contributed to our own demise. They're 13-3 in part because of us. Well, they're 10-3 without us. So that's still a really good football team. Yep. Really good, 3 really good football teams, right? So those 5 FBS teams we have faced have scored an average of 35.8 points a game. So those 5 teams offensively are averaging 35.8. We have given up to them an average of 33.6. So 2.2 points fewer on average than what they have scored per game. It doesn't feel like it the last couple times out, because actually BYU's averaging 38. We gave up 38, but Utah and BYU, that wasn't the case. So on the defensive side, and then we'll wrap up with some special teams and just that large stuff. But on the defensive side, again, if I'm looking from a personnel standpoint at some of the things I've liked, it's hard not to like Eddie V bouncing back the way he has from that injury. You're getting what you'd expect. A grinder on every snap. I mean, there are so many things that don't show up on paper as I'm watching Eddie V close during games from the sidelines, where he's just making the offensive line earn it. It might be late in the second half of a game that's been decided, and their body language looks at him like, are you really still coming this hard? Don't you know this thing's over? And he just comes. Eddie V he's relentless, and you respect that about his game. Chase Wilson, he's had a couple dubious moments, but I'll tell you what, by and large, he's been a great addition from Colorado State and exactly what we need in that linebacker core. Reed Carrico's playing the best football he's played as a Mountaineer, but Chase Wilson is a difference maker. He's a smart, savvy veteran player that has seen a lot. He understands a lot. I think I get the sense, understands the system as well as anybody, maybe even including those that played in it at Jack State with Zach Alley. That's just Chase Wilson devours football, and he's all about it. So I think he's been a nice addition. Obviously, Fred Perry leads the team in tackles. He's a missile. Yes, you're going to have an occasional 15-yarder you don't want, but that's the nature of it. That's what you get with a wild dog sometimes. You can't always put him on a leash, and that's what Fred Perry is. Fred Perry is a difference maker. I mean, the turnover that he single-handedly accounted for from that nickel blitz on that speed option against BYU, he is just a special football player, and he is everything we hoped he would be. And I hope he gives us 6 more games just like that down the stretch in the regular season. And then on the back end, he's not coming off his best performance. Michael Coates against Chase Roberts and BYU, targeted 2 times, gave up 2 catches for 120-plus yards. But he has still been a very, very solid addition for us at one of those corner spots. People have just been reluctant to throw his way because it hasn't been a very good bang for your buck. And even, like I said, the throws that he made to Chase Roberts, the throws that he gave up to Chase Roberts against BYU, it wasn't like he wasn't right in his hip. It's just Chase Roberts is 6'4", 210 pounds for BYU. So I think Michael Coates has helped us. I'd like to see him bounce back from that BYU performance and give us 6 more solid efforts down the stretch. And on the other corner spot, Jason Chambers, he's really held up as well and played some solid football for us. So for all the deficiencies or things you need to improve on, yes, you need to improve a little bit of everywhere, but those corner spots have had their moments for us, especially with what we've seen in the recent past since Beanie's departure. That's your kind of star for some production there. But those are some of the names that I'm looking at as I look at us defensively. Now, from an improvement standpoint, first of all, let's continue with the turnovers. Let's continue with the takeaways. Let's get that thing into the 20s and see what happens, see what kind of difference that might make. But continue with the trend in the improved tackling as much as anything. That's what I want to see. And I think those two things, if you tackle well and quit giving up so many yards after contact, I think you'll find yourself putting offenses off schedule more often to put Zach Alley in position to be the effective third down defensive play caller we know he can be and has been. Not just the average one we've seen that's middle of the pack right now in the Big 12, but a very effective one. And I think if you can do that, if you can tackle more effectively, and finally, what I would close with is the splash plays. I mean, yeah, just the nature of what we do, we're very aggressive. You're going to give up one or two a game, but giving up 4 or 5, that's just too heavy a burden to overcome. And nobody knows that better than the defense. So sure, you're going to have your moments. You need a short memory. You got to be a goldfish. You're going to give up a big player too, just because you're so aggressive and you're flying downhill and you're trying to make plays. And that's the nature of this defense, but not 4 or 5. That's too much. You're playing uphill football when you do that, making life far too difficult on yourself. But defensively, that's what I see. I'll toss back to you guys from comments. And like I said, we'll close out with some special teams and just general topics.
Well, to piggyback off that explosive play thing, I did the research actually during the game. Bear Bachmeyer had 4 passes over 20 plus yards, I think it was, going into that game. He had 4 in the first half. He ended the game with 6. So that's rough. But one thing I wanted to mention is, Jed, all those names that you just routed off, you know what they have in common? They're all seniors.
So they are defensively, yeah.
To me, that's where my eyes go. Isn't necessarily what these other. I mean, yes, it's great. You need Fred Perry to be able to play good football down the stretch. You need Jason Chambers and Michael Coates and Eddie V. You need those guys. But what I have to see in these final 6 games is somebody that's got remaining eligibility step up and show that they can be either a starter next year or somebody in the 2 deep that you can trust. We've seen Nick Taylor a little bit. Maybe he's one guy. Asani Redwood could be maybe another guy. There's some people there, but that defense is just littered with a bunch of seniors that are in their last year. So it's going to be hard to find them, but if they can show up, that'd be nice.
We didn't mention, you look at some of the others on the defensive line, and there's just so many, KK. I mean, there's just so many guys that you're going to have to replace.
Yeah, absolutely. Jed and I talked about this a little bit on the BYU recap, but NFL and Division I college football, the biggest indicator of who wins a game is turnover ratio. I don't think that surprises anybody. I think even the most casual of football fans understand that. Number 2 is explosive play differential. And I actually found some research since we had that conversation, Jed, that if you in college football last season, so this was calculated from the 2024 season, obviously the full body of work, teams that had a +2 or better explosive play ratio won like 82 or 83% of the time. So, I mean, that is, a very thin margin there. Okay, if we have 4 splash plays and we give up 6, that doesn't seem like that much of a difference, but the proof is in the pudding that it really is. And so that is something that I want to see in the final 6 games. I want to see us get more of those 10-yard runs on offense, 20-yard pass plays on offense, and surrender less on defense. And then also, Jed, you mentioned the tackling and how it was better against BYU. I think we all agree on that. The numbers showed that 6 missed tackles was the lowest that we had in a few games. If you look at our tackling score from these games as well, too, okay, Ohio 55, Pittsburgh 57, Kansas 50, Utah 39.
No.
Tackling score was 74 against BYU. Much better. Drastic improvement. The first time you had been over even 60 is a grade there since the opener against Robert Morris. So again, I think things are maybe slower than we want. Maybe they're turning like the Titanic a little bit slowly, right? But I do think that they're getting there. Now Schuyler makes a great point as well too. You don't want to get to Thanksgiving and feel like you finally got it figured out, and then you're saying goodbye to most of these guys on the defensive side of the football. But at the same time, it's given me a lot of faith. I think we all, rightfully so, had a ton of faith in Zach Alley and this defensive staff. I think they have clearly diagnosed. It's like when you go to the doctor, right? And you're like, my shoulder's hurting and my elbow's doing this, and I got this weird rash, right? Okay, well, those are symptoms. What's the diagnosis? What's causing the problem? We've all known what the symptoms have been over these last 3 games, certainly. I think they've been able to get under the hood there and diagnose it, and I'm confident that we're going to continue to see all of that moving in the right direction.
Wes, too, with your point on the explosives, I'm not saying that it would have completely changed the outcome of the game, but let's just say, for instance, Khalil Wilkins doesn't throw an interception. That gives BYU a touchdown basically right on the doorstep. If they don't give up an 85-yard play and then on the second play they score a touchdown, you just take 2 or 3 of those plays away in that game. I'm just saying it might be a little bit more interesting late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
It might have been a little more.
We were saying in the recap, look, you have no idea being guaranteed what unfolds or doesn't unfold, but football is a game of cause and effect. Everything that happens affects the next thing that happens. So in a game where, let's say, they have 5 huge splash plays, what if they only had 2?
Yeah.
I mean, that could directly impact where you find yourself halfway through the third quarter, and maybe they're puckering up. You don't know, because we didn't have the benefit of doing that. But Schuyler, to your point, I don't have the flip card in front of me from BYU. It's in my bag upstairs, I think. But I have Utah's down here on my desk, so it's next best thing. But if you look through the 2 deep defensively for West Virginia at potential returners, those who don't end up in the portal and those who might return next year and serve as potential contributors to future Mountaineer defenses. Okay, let's look through here. 1 corner spot, you got a senior. You got Coates and Scruggs. 1 safety spot, Izzy Boyce is a sophomore. KK's the other. So Izzy Boyce is 1. Defensive end, senior. Nose tackle, senior. And then you got Nate Gabriel, sophomore. Defensive tackle, Eddie V, senior, redshirt senior. Asani, as you mentioned, redshirt junior. Bandit, Braden Siders, senior. Curtis Jones, there's another piece that could be critical moving forward. He's shown some flashes. The other corner spot, a couple seniors. Boundary safety, senior. Nickel safety, senior, and Chris Filippo is a freshman. Mike, you got Reed Carrico's redshirt senior, Ben Bogle as a redshirt junior. So potential extra year there. And then you got Ben Cutter at will. So, yeah, not a lot of options. That's just in the 2 deep before you get into the 3 and 4 deep, but something to be said for let's see how this shakes out and which of these guys are demanding more reps later in the year based on what they show in practice, which guys are ready to take on a larger role, and which guys will emerge in this 2 deep that so far have not.
One guy I like that's not. I don't know if he's played this year. He's definitely not on the 2 deep. Is Zay Jennings. I don't know if it's going to happen for him here, but I really liked what I saw to him out of high school. Maybe he's somebody
a physical kid. Just the game needs to slow down for him. Owen, you got anything before we jump to special teams?
No, I mean, I guess it would be more of an offensive thing, just with all of our turnovers that we have gotten. Just trying to capitalize on some of that stuff and get the defense off the field. Obviously, you guys have already talked about the tackling and that stuff, but hopefully we just get some of those situations figured out and fixed.
It was great to see against BYU. I mean, it seems for all those turnovers we've had previously, we turned up with no points from. But against BYU, you got a couple touchdowns. That was a difference.
Usually, right? You got to be able to capitalize on those for them to really even muster any, sauce.
So maybe we've turned a corner there based on what we saw against BYU. That's a good point too. If we can start cashing in on those turnovers like we did against BYU, as opposed to those previous games, that's a positive sign too. I always look at penalty yards. Nothing to flash your skirt here.
Jed, real quick too.
Go ahead,
Jed. Jed, we got to score when we're on the inch line, bud. Okay. When
That would
you're
kind of help,
closer
wouldn't
than what you got in your pants. Hey, listen, when you're closer than what you got in your pants, it's time to drop the sack, dog. You know what I'm saying? It's time.
it? Kind of help.
Speak
That
for
would kind of
yourself,
help.
buddy.
Well, here we go. Here we go. Now it sounds like a presidential debate. That's okay.
Oh.
How big are your hands? All right. That's okay. Here we go. We're in the gutter. All right. Which
Save
we
us,
could
Jed.
spend
Save
half
us.
an hour talking about what happened from the 6-inch line on that play. Oh, and I've studied that play 1,000 ways to Sunday on the coach's cut up. And I'm just like, anyway, I'm going to spare people from having to hear about that. But so I always look at penalties to see if there's a difference one way or the other. We're kind of middle of the pack. You'd like to sneak some hidden yardage there. We're 10th in the Big 12 in penalty yards. A little more efficient. You can save 20 or 30 yards a game. Yeah, you'd like to work towards that. But again, a roster with 80-some new faces, you'd expect that kind of thing downstream from that. But all right, now let's go to some special teams numbers. Touchback percentage. We have the lowest touchback percentage yet again in the Big 12. It's only 15.4% of the time where we're getting a touchback. It was nice to get out in that mountain air at 4,500 feet in Provo. We were able to kick a couple to the end zone. Opponent's kickoff return. This is the issue too. We have the lowest touchback percentage in the Big 12, and we're also dead last in the Big 12 in how far the opponent returns it against us, 25.2 yards on average. Now, kickoff specialist Ethan Head, his average starting field position on kickoffs. The opponent on average starts the 28.5 yard line, 28 and a half, which is also last in the Big 12. We give the opposition the best starting field position after a kickoff in the Big 12. These are areas that can be improved in the final 6 games. You're stacking pennies. You're coming up with hidden yardage. These are the areas that need to be addressed. 56% of his kicks are returned kickoffs. That's second most in the Big 12. Now he has forced 4 fair catches, good for third best in the Big 12. So that's something to build on. And then another positive from special team standpoint, Ollie is tied for the Big 12 lead. 11 times he's pinned the opposition inside the 20. So when I look at these transition units from a midseason standpoint, Owen, you and I know some of the people that are working on those units, starting with Pat Kirkland. Pat Kirkland's a critical part of what they're doing there with those special teams units. And I'm utterly confident we're going to see change and more productivity out of those teams because of Pat Kirkland and those surrounding him and the rest of the staff helping out there. I think they're going to make the changes necessary. Some will be personnel. You might tweak a scheme or two, but here we are. It is kind of you're playing shorthanded when you're not really in position or confident to even return a kick when you get those limited opportunities to do so. Most of the time, they're kicking in the end zone. We don't get a chance. But then even when they don't, we've had so many infractions and so many holding calls. Rich is almost telling them, look, I'd rather just start at 25. I'm tired of starting at the 12 because of a holding call. So fair catch the daggone thing. So something you'd like to sneak a few yards and maybe occasionally get out to the 35 or the 34 or the 38 with a nice little return, you can't really afford to do so because the penalties, you're playing with poor angles, poor technique. Those are the things I'm confident the staff will address and help improve. But when it comes to those special teams, when you're fighting for inches, when you're trying to stack as many pennies as possible, that's where the hidden yardage of a piece comes in. And Wes, we talked about the things that are most critical in determining the outcome of a football game. Well, something else that ranks right there toward the top 5, at least, is starting field position when you get to a double-digit differential. In other words, if you average a game starting on your own 27 and the other team starts on their own 37, that's a 10-yard difference.
Massive.
It's 80 and some 90-some percent of the time you're going to lose the game. You have to do a lot of special things to overcome that. So as you're trying to impact that, these are the types of conversations you have in the kicking game. It helps that Ollie's pinning people. That impacts their starting field position. We need better production. We can't let people start on the 28.5-yard line every time we kick off. You can't be doing that. You either need more hang time, okay, to work more perfectly in sync with what you're trying to do scheme wise to trap people, or something else has to give. You got to climb toward the middle of the conference and then keep going is what you want to do, because then you can sneak every time there's a kickoff. You're sneaking a couple extra yards. Maybe it's the 25 they start on. That's 3.5 yard difference. And if you kick off 4 or 5 times in a game, that adds up. Those hidden yards add up. So that's what I'd close with there, guys. But again, from a personnel standpoint, those are the ones we've discussed. We haven't asked much out of the kicking game from a field goal. We've been pretty successful, knock on wood. We haven't had as many opportunities as you would like, because first, we haven't been in the red zone as much as we want to. When we have been there, fortunately, we've been pretty successful in terms of churning out some touchdowns, about 7 out of every 10 times. But that's where I leave you with the special teams. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd say just one piece with the special teams. I know for Ollie, as far as punting goes, and just like uh, playing the field, it's a lot different when you're punting the ball from, the 40, 50, and you're able to get that hang time, and those guys are able to get down there right before that guy catches the ball. Where instead of him just having to boot it down as far as he can, and we're still covering, and that guy's already got a 5-10 yard head start of steam moving upfield. So like for us, just offensively, if you can at least get a first down or two to get that field position where we can at least cover better. That's maybe one aspect that I could say just, I look at. And like you were saying with Pat, I don't really know what they want. I guess Rich is just kind of like, dude, let's just fair catch this, because, and there's a different rule now too. I forgot that just changed. Now you just have to touch the ball, and it's down where it is. So I mean, I see that, I mean, you got hang time versus a boomer of a kick. It's just covering the field is so much different. And I feel like that's some areas where, Ollie he's got a great leg. It's just for the coverage team, it's just different.
We scored 2 touchdowns in the final 6 games on special teams. That's question number one. I don't care if it's a blocked punt. I don't care what it might be. I don't care if it's forced them into a hole, and next thing you know, Pac-Man Fox sneaks one up the sidelines and finds a wall. I don't care what it might be. Can we score on special teams twice? And the other thing, can we steal 2 possessions on special teams? And what I mean by that is there a fake punt or two? Is there a fake field goal or two to maybe get an additional opportunity at points? Something like that down the stretch in the final 6 games I'd like to see.
What do you have to lose?
Yep.
I mean, you're 2-4.
Yeah.
You're playing with, in some ways house money, but I think you're spot on with the whole field position thing, because as bad as this offense has been in terms of staying on the field, you can't make their situation less ideal by having them tilt the field. And every time a kick's been brought back out to the 30 or 35 for the opposing team, I'll tell you where my mind's at. It's not, oh man, they're going to go down and have an easy drive right here. I still believe in the defense getting the stop. My mind immediately goes to, oh no, they're going to have the ball inside their own 10. That's where my mind goes. And you're not going to have much success, even with a pretty good offense, being backed up like that often, let alone this one.
When you track it, just like any other category, your percentage of the times you score for a drive that starts inside the 10 versus starts at midfield. I mean, every 10 yards you move up, you take a significant leap for any average offense, much less one trying to find its stride like we are. So field position, and not just that, it's difficult to overcome even over the course of 2 or 3 possessions. Because, again, we go back to the cause and effect piece of it. If they get the ball at the 35 after a kickoff and they get 1 first down and we force a punt, maybe we start at the 15, right, Schuyler? And maybe we get 1 first down. We're only at the 25 and we punt. Now they're at the 45 and they do it again. Now you're at the 5. And now you're playing it close to the vest and they're pinned and they get the ball at the 40, all because it started with a kickoff to the 35. And now, next thing you know, 6 plays later, they score a touchdown. All 3 possessions later, it happened all because of that kickoff that started at the 35. They cut you so slowly sometimes with this field position battle, you don't know you're bleeding. And that's why it's critical to win every yard you possibly can in the kicking game from a hidden yardage standpoint. That's why I also mentioned the penalties. The penalties stack up in the same way.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. No doubt about it. That's the inches that we need that are all around us. I guess kind of similar to the inches that Owen was referencing earlier at the goal line. I digress. One last thing on special teams to kind of bring it full circle with where I started in this segment and talking about rivalry and the backyard brawl. We will continue to thank Ollie Straw for the one-handed snag, the stab early on. You want to talk about
not a T-shirt yet?
You want to talk
Jordan
about
silhouette.
how everything in games affects each other. That could have been much different if that's a 2-0 lead for Pitt early on there. So big shout out to Ollie Straw, maybe with the catch of the year as well as doing great things in the punt game for the Mountaineers. That was fun, gentlemen. Jed, before we go here, you want to just recap how we did with our since we are on a little bit of a different schedule this week. We're kind of condensing some things here. You want to recap how we did with our pick'em last week?
Yeah, I sure do. Let me go back and find it here. Okay. Since we had technical difficulties, wink, wink, right, Schuyler?
I tried like hell,
as I went
that
3
was real
for 3
good
in our prop bets. Okay, so last week, let's see how we did. As passing offense, I'm trying to remember, Wes, did we read the fans' picks? It won't take long if we didn't. Only 4 fans guessed correct with last week's picks. All 4 picked the passing offense, TCU. Am I looking at the right week? Maybe. See, here's the problem. I just infused a bunch of new texts in that I had deleted. So hang on one second here. Talk amongst yourselves.
This is the part when post-production where Schuyler, puts in something here to mess with Jed or screw with his mind here. He's crunching the spreadsheets. I took BYU as the defense. Remember trying to put the hex on them.
Okay. So I think we already went over the fan stuff. So here's what we're gonna do. Here's our picks. Baylor is who I picked. Baylor threw for 345. They finished third. Arizona threw for 433 against Okie State. So Baylor threw for 345, good for third. So I get 3 points. Ding, ding. Owen picked Arizona to run for the most yards. Cincinnati actually ran for the most yards, 264. Meanwhile, Arizona dead last in the Big 12 with 46 yards rushing. You hexed them, Big O. 46 yards rushing. But they threw for 433. So Owen gets 0. Wes, you picked BYU. Texas Tech actually allowed the fewest points in the Big 12. Boy, do they look like the real deal, fellas. 11 points against Houston in a game that really wasn't as close as the score might otherwise suggest, and it was still 35-11. You get 1 point because BYU gave up 24, which is good for fifth. You still finish in the top 5. So, Schuyler, you picked offensively to score the most points. You picked Baylor. Arizona, it was like a log jam in a lot of these categories. Arizona scored the most with 41. Baylor tied for 4th most with 35. So you get 2 points.
Woo!
So 2 points. So you inch up. I gained a point on you this week. How's that?
I guess we'll let you have that.
Little by little.
Stack pennies.
Thanks to everybody for participating. Reminder, that's on our X page, our Twitter page, pinned at the top if you want to participate. We'll pick that back up next week.
On Monday, I'm going to give Owen a wide berth for barbecue since we don't have a recap episode. Phil Steele's off this week. We gave him a vacation. So next week, Phil will return. So next week, the schedule will look like this. Owen barbecuing with the beer truck with Ethan on Monday. I'm trying to remember what you guys did. Was it it was something for the Florida Heat. Oh, and I don't remember what it was, though. What you guys did. I have to think about that. Anyway,
I
guess you'll just have to tune in to find out.
That'll be Monday. Yeah. And then we will have a preview either Wednesday or Thursday. We'll see. We'll decide next week. we might be able to put it up a day early since the week's so crazy. We'll see. It'll be either Wednesday or Thursday. The game preview for UCF, and then Phil Steele Friday will be on Friday. And it looks like it might be me and Wes with Phil this week because Schuyler's spending a week in Vegas, I think, or something. What are you doing, Schuyler?
Wait,
going?
is that this
in
week
a
or next
wedding
week?
in Geneva?
Ooh,
whoa,
Switzerland.
Oh yeah, up there in the near the Lake Erie.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh,
wait, hold on. Is that this
Geneva.
week or next week? That's next week?
No, next week. Yeah,
Next week for Phil Steele. Next week.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
Jed, I'm going to be in a hotel room in Cincinnati for that one because the Steelers play the Bengals on Thursday. So we'll figure that out. We'll get it all squared away.
Okay.
He did it smart though. Unlike me, I did it the day of home game against TCU. He's doing it on a Friday, so smart.
There you go. Yeah, when you originally kind of floated that to me, Schuyler, about filling in for you, I was thinking it was this Thursday. I mean, it's fine. I'll just have to. I won't have the same fancy setup. I'll just have to do it from my hotel room in downtown Cincinnati.
The 5-star Hilton or whatever that is. The Steelers.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Right there in scenic downtown Cincy, baby.
As you battle with the fighting Flaccos.
That's right, Joe Flacco on the move. It's always moving and shaking in the AFC North. But yeah, this is I think a good reset week for us, good reset week for the team, and then we'll kind of be back and rolling next week. But gentlemen, I think that will do it for this edition of ITG.
UCF kick time was announced.
Oh yes, noon against. Or ours is 1 o'clock. Yes, they play Cincinnati this weekend.
Who cares about that?
Yeah, who cares about that? But they, yes, Jed loves the fact that it's a 1 o'clock, nice NFL Sunday kickoff time on a Saturday down there.
It's gonna feel like we're back in the Big East. We stay in the Eastern time zone. We got an early kick. It won't take you 6 days to recover from the traveling. It's gonna be awesome. Yeah.
Oh shoot! Well, I guess if the only way it could feel more like a Big East matchup is if it was on like a Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, right? But I know
Jed, there you go. Now you're talking.
Jed will take the Saturday 1 p.m.
I'll say one more thing too, Wes. Since we're talking about Wednesday nights and coming off the bye week, I did an article earlier this week on our website of Rich's history out of the bye weeks. Encourage you to check it out. But 21-7 is his all-time record at the D1 level. So there you go.
Ooh. Well done. Well done, Schuyler.
Excellent.
I think that's
Excellent.
I think that's a nice piece of information to wrap this thing up here. So for the statistician / producer / co-host, Schuyler Callihan.
I get a new title every week.
That's it. We're just adding to you're going to need a very long business card. To the barbecue and beer truck, sharp-dressed man himself, Owen Schmitt. The signal caller, Jed Drenning. I'm Wes Uhler. Folks, the one thing we ask of you, as always, is to be an ear and tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast. Take care. Enjoy the bye weekend, and we'll talk to you soon. As always, you've been in the gun.
ITG.
The fun doesn't have to stop here.
Be sure to hit subscribe and never miss an episode.
If you have any questions, suggestions, or feedback,
be sure to follow us on X at In the Gun Podcast.
Join us again next time.
Until then,
tell an ear to tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast.
This mission is over. It's over.